Okay, cool.
So welcome to the Facility for Rare Isotope Beams, or FRIB, as we like to call it. We're happy that you have joined us today for the Intersection Conversation, Stellar Connections Between Art and Science, featuring FRIB nuclear astrophysicist Hendrik Schatz and MSU Federal Credit Union Arts Power Up Artist in Residence Abel Korinsky from Studio Korinsky in Berlin. My name is Dean Lee. I am a professor of physics here at FRIB and host of the Advanced Studies Gateway program at FRIB. The Facility for Rare Isotope Beams is a scientific user facility funded by the U.S. Department of Energy Office of Science, Michigan State University, and the state of Michigan. With generous support from the MSU Federal Credit Union, Abel Korinsky is the artist in residence at FRIB since March of this year, and he will spend a couple more months here. This exciting inaugural appointment is a collaboration between FRIB, the MSU Museum, the STEAMpower Project, Michigan State University's Art, Science, and Culture Collaborative, and Arts MSU. At the end of the program today, you will hear from Abel, who is the President and Chief Executive Officer of Michigan State University Federal Credit Union. But at this point, I want to introduce Devin Ackman. Devin Ackman is Director of the MSU Museum and CoLab Studio. He joined MSU in 2020 to lead the Science Gallery Detroit, which is now the CoLab Studio and is part of the MSU Museum. He received his Bachelor's of Arts in Psychology from Michigan State University and his Master's of Science in Historic Preservation Planning from Eastern Michigan University. Please join me in welcoming Devin Ackman.
Well, good evening, everyone. Thank you, Dean. On behalf of the MSU Museum, we also would like to welcome you here this evening. The MSU Museum is immensely proud to be part of this collaboration, putting forward this inaugural residency with Abel. Our mission is really about infusing the arts and sciences and thinking about the world through that lens, and that's really critical to our work, and that's why we're a partner in this. We're immensely excited to be working with such a renowned facility such as FRIB, working with our colleagues in Arts MSU, led by Judith Stoddard, as well as the STEAMpower program. And why is this important? Why is this important to us? I mean, to really think about the coming together of the arts and sciences, to challenge our way about thinking, to think about those big ideas and issues that we're facing as a society and how the intersection of these disciplines can challenge us to think more boldly. And I think it's particularly exciting that that's happening right here at MSU, because this is a dialogue that's happening nationally. Major institutions, from the Smithsonian to funding agencies like the Getty Foundation, are actually supporting these kinds of generative projects. And we have that happening right here at Michigan State University, with our first artist coming to us all the way from Germany. So this is an exciting moment, and these programs are wonderful in that they bring this experience to life and can be shared with the community, both our academic community as well as the community at large. So tonight is one program out of many that Abel is participating in with our faculty, our students, and the public at large. But something we at the museum are very excited about is the culmination of this residency. So later this year, in the fall, roughly around October, we will all have the opportunity to see what comes about from this residency through the eyes of Abel. Now, I won't share too much now because I don't want to steal the thunder, but some of you know that the MSU Museum is going to be shut down for renovation, so we'll be doing this exhibition at a new location, which we'll be sharing soon. So we're very excited to see what Abel has in store for this residency, and we're very excited for tonight's program that will very much explore those interesting questions about why the arts and sciences are important. So we too would like to thank MSU FCU for their bold commitment through this program, and again, thank our partners in FRIB for welcoming us and allowing us to be part of this journey. So thank you.
At this time, it's my pleasure to introduce Hendrik Schatz. Hendrik Schatz is a University Distinguished Professor with faculty appointments at FRIB and the Department of Physics and Astronomy at Michigan State. He is also the director of the International Research Network for Nuclear Astrophysics, also called IRENA. He has been a part of the FRIB staff since 1999 and holds his PhD in physics from the University of Heidelberg. Please join me in welcoming Hendrik.
Okay, let me get this started. So, good evening, and I'm really glad you all came. There's a lot of art happening at FRIB actually, and sometimes the lights are so it's okay. There's a lot of art happening at FRIB. I just want to say that up front. It's kind of an amazing place in that respect as well. We have actually another resident artist, Agnes, sitting there. She's working on a documentary movie about FRIB. Artemis, I think she's over there, brought a dance program to make a rare isotope dance show. I think Dean is organizing a lot of art events at FRIB. But this is about the art residency with Abel, and I just want to say a few words about why I'm personally excited as a scientist to actually have an artist sit in the building and work together. And I also want to say a few words about nuclear astrophysics, because that's actually the scientific topic of the residency. It does have an official scientific topic. Now, is there a pointer? And if you're wondering about nuclear astrophysics, you see the FRIB logo here, and I'm sure you wondered about why there are 4 areas and what they mean. Anyways, there are little stars here, and the blue one, that is the nuclear astrophysics. So it's one of the 4 major motivations why this facility here was built. And so it is really important, and a lot of people here are working on that. But anyways, I want to start with this quote here. Exploration is really the essence of the human spirit, from one of the Apollo 8 astronauts. As scientists, we are explorers. But to make our exploration really a human endeavor, we have to share what we're doing and where we're going. And so if we go to the moon, we have to take a camera with us, and we have to take pictures, and we have to broadcast those pictures around the world, and then we can really start, changing people's outlook on the world, and we can have people say things like, "We went to the moon," right? There are only a few astronauts that went there, but we went to the moon. And so, so the question is, what do you do in nuclear astrophysics at FRIB? We explore the invisible, right? That's the challenge. And I think, to me, that's one area where I see the art maybe coming in. And now, of course, we do have images in our minds as nuclear scientists about what we explore, and that kind of looks like this. And, I don't know if anybody recognizes this. There's some nuclear people here. But anyways, this is the landscape of rare isotopes that every nuclear scientist has in their head. We talk about things like, tomorrow we're going to have an experiment, we're going to go southeast of Nickel 78, and it'll be really exciting, and nobody has been there before. But it doesn't do much for us, of the average person, right? I mean, the discoveries are really mind-boggling that we're making. I mean, they're at least as interesting as the surface of the moon. So how we get that across, that is really the challenge, so that our exploration becomes something that all humanity can share. People say, "Oh yeah, we went to see Nickel 78." That's what we want to get to. Anyways, of course we can show the pictures of what we're doing. Neutron stars, one of my fascinating research topics. Rare isotopes, here they are. Well, you don't see anything here, right? The neutron stars just dot, and there are no rare isotopes in sight here. It's just cables. So that doesn't work. Now, I like to do outreach. I like to give public talks. And what we tend to do as scientists, when we give public talks, we explain. We explain the science. And we say things like, "This is an amazing neutron star. It has the mass of the sun compressed down to 16 it was supposed to be miles, anyways. It's 16 miles. I thought I'd do miles and now I messed it up. Yeah, it's, anyways, 16 mile size, and you know, we give you numbers, and there are some people in the public who actually want to learn how large a neutron star is, and they're interested about this. I don't know, anybody here really wants to know how large a neutron star is? Okay, a few people, but it's not everybody, right? I mean, yes, knowledge is important, but you can't know everything. And in terms of the priorities, I think the size of a neutron star is not at the top. I mean, you can live happily without knowing that. So, so that doesn't work so great. Now we can, but again, these are mind-boggling things that are absolutely crazy and so interesting. But I'm just saying those words, right? And I look at your faces and it just doesn't come across. Now we can up it up a little bit, you know, we can put some fancy pictures and say, imagine you take a spoon and you dig into a neutron star. The material in the spoon would weigh 150,000 tons, so you'd have to really lift hard. And then when those rare isotopes that are actually buried in there, when they come to the surface, they decay, and they release the energy of equivalent of 750 gigatons of TNT. So once you lifted the 150,000 tons out of the ground, you get evaporated. So not a good idea, but we really want to understand what's in the neutron star and connect that with observations. So we can actually do that at FRIB. We can produce the same isotopes that are inside the neutron star in the lab, and we can understand the reaction, and we can link this to observations and figure out what's actually inside the neutron star. If you're worried now, these are very small quantities. Unfortunately, it's very hard to do the experiment, so you couldn't even heat a coffee mug with the energy. But anyways, but you see, I try to get you excited, but I'm still using numbers and I'm still teaching. And I don't know if everybody is really interested in this, probably not. Now, there are amazing things in neutron stars, so we have amazing stories to tell. There's pasta, there's nuclear pasta potentially hidden there. There's gnocchi, spaghetti. I don't know what is that really pasta? It's some stuff here. There's also anti-spaghetti and anti-gnocchi. There's all this stuff in there. It may be the strongest material in the universe. Those are the headlines. Again, but these are just words, right? I mean, I don't know. Are you feeling the excitement?
Yeah.
Yeah, you do. But this audience is probably special too. Now, if two neutron stars meet in space, even more amazing things happen. They start orbiting each other, and eventually they merge into a black hole. And this is actually a real scientific animation that shows that. And the colors will be the temperature, and you can see the temperature going up, and you see I'm explaining again the scientific thing here. They merge into a black hole, but there's also this crazy neutron star material with the pasta and everything is flung out into space, and there are actually nuclear reactions happening that create heavy elements like gold, platinum, and it gets hurled out in space. And then new stars form out of it, and planets, and then people on those planets dig in the ground and they find the gold. And that's exactly what happened with the Earth. The Earth formed out of this debris from a neutron star merging event. And now, is that true? It's the leading theory right now. We don't know for sure. So at FRIB, that's one of the science topics. We can recreate step by step the nuclear reactions that happen in there. And we can piece this together, compare the observations, and then hopefully, we just started the experimental program, it will be another 10 years or so, then we'll maybe be able to tell whether that story works or not. And there's a lot more stuff happening. I don't know, I had to show this. I was working on a talk where I put this together on the train in Germany. And the guy next to me looked at this is all happening in space? And I said, yep, it's all happening. Crazy stuff, and each of these explosions have are powered by rare isotopes, and the rare isotope physics that we study at FRIB tells you what elements these make, and you know, maybe gold comes from some of these others. And you see the kilonova dating? I'm very proud of that. That's the merging neutron star, actually. Anyways. Well, it's only blinking once in reality. Anyways. And then it's not just the science, it's also the amazing machines. I mean, the accelerator is unique. Nobody has ever built an accelerator like this. And the detectors that we build to do the experiments are unique. And I mean, they look cool, but again, you don't see the amazing rare isotopes hurtling through there with the speed of light almost. You don't see the connection to the cosmos, you just see green boxes, right? And so that's, I think, really where the science may come in, and where I'm excited to see the science come in. And I think science, what amazes me about art is that art makes science experienceable. I hope that's the word, experienceable. Okay.
It is now.
You can actually experience it. You don't sit there and learn that the neutron star is 10 kilometers or whatever, right? You can really experience it, and I think that really opens up a whole new audience, and it has really much more potential to actually change people's lives. A little bit maybe, or just come out of the exhibition and they're changed a little bit. If you know that the neutron star is 10 kilometers, I don't know if that really affects you. Maybe it does. But, this is one of my examples that I like. That's an art piece from Andy Warhol and Billy Kluwer from 1966. So Billy Kluwer was an engineer at Bell Labs, and he came up, he found this material that they had developed called Scotch Pack. It was relatively new back then. I think the NASA used it, and the Army read sandwiches in it or something. Anyways, it was this amazing material. And of course, Billy Kluwer could have gone to some outreach event and said, look, here's this amazing material, and has all these properties, and isn't that cool? And some people would have thought it's cool. But anyways, he decided to actually do art with it together with Andy Warhol, and they made this silver clouds installation where you have these kind of floating clouds in there, and it was extremely successful. You can still see this, I think, at exhibitions where people, you can actually buy them, I think. And people still go in, and they walk in there, you can interact with the clouds, and they came out completely happy, apparently. I want to try that. But it just made people happy to see the little clouds. And anyways, so much more powerful, and you can really get something out of it, right? Even without learning the tensile strength of Scotch Pack. And you still get something out of science. It's also a nice example, I think, how science can enable new art. The material really made this possible. It had to be helium-proof, and it had to be sealable in a certain way to make this happen. And I'm really looking forward to learning what art will be enabled by nuclear astrophysics and the maybe accelerator technology at FRIB. And then I was thinking also a little bit, can art actually help the science to progress, right? Can art stimulate progress in science? And I was a bit skeptical. I also, I knew there are some commonalities between art and science, but talking with Abel already the last few weeks, I realized there are actually way more commonalities than I thought. And if there are commonalities, then for sure there are synergies, and we can learn from each other. And one of those was we both had labs. I was amazed. I had no idea. And they actually kind of look the same. I don't know if you can tell which one's the FRIB.
Yes.
This is the FRIB, this is Abel's lab. Isn't that amazing? Artists have labs. Who would have known? We create and discover. And we have to abandon our discoveries. That's actually something I learned from Agnes. She just gave a talk about that. if we have a favorite theory, we better don't have a favorite theory because we may have to give it up the next day. And with artists, when they do shows, they have to cut down their favorite things as well. So actually, some similarities there. We imagine things all the time. I wasn't so aware of that, but yeah, it's actually true. We do stuff that has never been done before. We do stuff where we do not know the outcome. We don't know what's going to happen. So lots of commonality, and you have to deal with the unexpected. Weird stuff happens, and then you have to somehow work around it. And so there are two examples that so far have emerged for myself, where I'm really interested in working with Abel and thinking about things, and one has to do with data. So these are typical experimental data. I hope you enjoy the color scheme. I worked hard on that. I'm old, so this is how I started with computers. Anyways, the screen looked like that. I guess it looks like a matrix or something. Anyways, there are millions of these numbers streaming down the data pipeline for an experiment. And what we tend to do is we have to pick one channel and then you look how that's distributed. And then pick another one and you look how, and sometimes we look at two and compare them. But to me, it's maybe like an orchestra. The detector has like 500,000 channels. So there are like 1,000 instruments playing. And we're just looking at the trumpet and the piano. And we never kind of see the whole orchestra play. And so talking with Abel, I realized art has actually completely different types of software programs to do visualization of data streams. And I'm really excited to see what comes out of that, and maybe we see new things in the data that we weren't aware of. And the other thing I was thinking about is actually the creative process itself. I think there are a lot of commonalities as well, and again, it's something I wasn't so aware of before Abel came. I knew there are these moments of creativity. This is one that I take a picture. We just discovered some neutron star cooling thing there, and it was one of those great moments. I don't know. But talking with Abel, I realized, the thing is you're not thinking about this much. You're a scientist. You go to work every morning, you do your science, and you go home in the evening, and you don't think much about how you do it, and you just do it, right? And I thought you have creative moments, but talking with Abel, I realized we're actually creative all the time. We always need to visualize things. This is our usual visualization tool. And if you walk through FRIB, you see the whiteboards everywhere, right? We need to visualize things, and it's exactly what artists do. Abel has an idea, he tries to visualize it, think about it. We imagine things all the time. We abstract. We see the world from different perspectives. We change perspective, and we have to distill the essence of something. And we do that all the time. And so I think that's very interesting to think about, compare like the process of creativity. And one thing that already came out of that, Abel told me, when he's creative, he needs a whole day. If there's one meeting, the process is ruined. And then I looked at my typical schedule, and I thought, well, maybe I have to do something here. And so it gets you thinking, right? So that's good. Maybe the residency can shine a light on our creative processes in science. Maybe it can impact how we value and enable creativity. Sometimes I feel like, especially in the administration side, creativity isn't always welcomed. But we have to be creative, right? That's what we do. And so that's something I think interesting to think about. And can the residency intensify the creative synergies between FRIB and other campus units? And I was already talking to some art students, so I think that's already happening with this event here. And so those are the things that are sort of currently in my mind why I'm excited about this residency. And I don't think it's just about the outcome. I'm really excited to see what will happen while Abel is here. But then I'm also excited, of course, about the outcome eventually. And yeah, that's sort of all I have at this point.
I would like to now introduce Abel Korinsky. Korinsky is one half of Studio Korinsky in Berlin, along with his twin brother Carlo Korinsky. the two media artists conduct research into the reciprocal dynamics of sound, light, and architecture, with a focus on how time-based media can be harnessed to create and transform the atmosphere of the space. Abel completed his undergraduate studies in music, German language and literature, social studies, and history at the University of Wuppertal, and his Master's of Arts in Sound Studies at Berlin University of the Arts. Please join me in welcoming Abel Korinsky.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you, Hendrik. The way how he speaks, I mean, that's how shows how inspiring everything is. And I'm talking to Pablo, Agnes, Anna, so many people. I want to show a bit like my idea of how I come from imagination of things to creation, and want to react a bit on the things Hendrik was telling. So from imagination to realization, how do I get to ideas, how I imagine things? And if you think of Hendrik, and he showed the nuclear sheet, it's very fascinating, and that's when we were talking, so it's like, there's nothing creative in this process, but I mean, look, if you have this nuclear sheet and then you imagine things, how things happen, and how things react, and how isotopes are connected to each other, it needs a lot of creativity and imagination. I think imagination which many people don't have. So that's a very high abstract level of the way how they think. And somehow, maybe similar with the art, it needs some abstraction, idea of how I want to go to. Sometimes it's just a blank paper, or it's an empty space. If you see like this, what can happen to, I don't know, a space like this? And how do I get to ideas? It's mainly about the curiosity about things, being interested, like a childish curiosity. For example, one example is when I was sitting on my balcony in Berlin, and I saw this. Actually, it's the satellite. It's a satellite train of the satellite project SpaceX, crossing the sky, and I thought, okay, I mean, it's quite fascinating. It's a bit scary, so I got very interested in it. Tried to learn what it is, what it's doing, and thought about the translation, how to combine it with art, and how to bring it to an artistic project. And then, actually, it's still an empty space which needs to be filled. And what's similar with the work you do at FRIB is also thinking about how can it look like, how can I represent it. You are representing it through nuclear sheets. Schatz, I try to make a random, try to find materials, how I can produce it. Then I try to do a simulation, try to work on it on the computer, simulate things, also very similar to the things you are doing here. Look how it looks, and play around with it, try to see it from different angles. So still a simulation of the whole thing. And then there's this part of creation. In the end, it somehow happens that I bring the idea which I have into an art piece which looks like this, or another scenery is this. And just want to show to people who maybe didn't see it. Continues like this to bring an idea into space. This is a part of a workshop space, less big. I'm partly based in Istanbul, partly based in Berlin. This is how it looks in Istanbul. It's a bit smaller, but with a lot of 3D printers. I've been here to a studio of Patrick, who's sitting in the front, so it looks very similar. So we try to work on things and try to explore things. Here you can see a split flip display from similar to an airport display, completely created in a 3D printer, which I tried to put into an art piece. So it's a lot about exploration and realizing how things go. And actually I tried to use it to connect it to the satellite data, that it was showing the actual satellites. I mean, here you see it's still a prototype. And then it was connected to real-time satellites. Yeah, my documentation was not very good. There's the only small snippet I had from this exhibition where we used this satellite representation. Yeah, but we tried about it. We somehow worked 3 years on this split flip display, but in the end we came to the idea that it's maybe not, that we don't want to use it. It was, I don't know, it never felt right. I think there are similarities which could be the same in science and the research. And maybe just to open it up, I would like to give an idea about what I'm thinking about doing here. And actually it's workshop space. Actually it's about two things. And one thing is what I got inspired through, also through Hendrik and Pablo, is that he said, for example, that the leading theory of how elements or heavy elements were spread or came to Earth is about that they were created in neutron star mergers. And that's very interesting because he says it's the leading theory, and that's one of maybe the problems in science or research, that you can't state it for sure. You doubt about it, you are not sure about things, then there comes new theories which have other ideas, and this is very interesting. It makes science quite difficult because it can't be very loud, it can't be, I don't know, just state things as this is something which the mainstream likes to hear. So yeah, science is somehow quiet and can't be as loud as art will be. So my idea is taking this state of the knowledge of today and use it as creating some monumental kind of the creation of humanity by the knowledge which is known until today, and create a kind of monumental idea and experience which is maybe sometimes exaggerating, but in many points will be discussed that there are real data and being precise. So I'm looking forward to the talks with Pablo and to Hendrik to make sure about it. Just to get example pictures, this is something which I experienced. I'm in talk with the company producing those volumetric LED light systems where this creation of the stars and the neutron mergers can be displayed in a place where people can walk around. And out of those neutron mergers, what also Hendrik said, the heavy elements spread out into space and somehow fall onto Earth and create human beings, where rare elements by the percentage form random human beings which compose humans, and they will be, so far what I imagine, like projected on the walls, and will be like a monumental way of I don't know, supporting the science, or I don't know, whatever it is. All right, that's on my side.
So at this point, I would like to now invite Hendrik and Abel to sit, and we'll have an in-depth discussion of some topics. So some of the topics we've already covered with your presentations, very well done. So let's start off with the basic question of what are the benefits of combining art and science? Maybe I can start with Hendrik.
Well, I try to summarize a few things already in my presentation. I can tell already that the conversations that we had have changed a little bit my outlook on what I'm actually doing, and so it can really make yourself more aware through discovering these commonalities about what you're actually doing as a scientist, and I think that is beneficial. Because the scientists in here, they all know the day-to-day life is not as spectacular as what's shown here. You deal with work control plans and schedules and grading and all these other important things. And sometimes you lose sight of what you're actually doing. And so I find that very beneficial.
I'll hand it off to Abel.
Yeah, I think it's beneficial on many parts. I think if we think about a social level, it's if we think about school, or where I was at school, it was somehow cool to say I'm not good in mathematics, I'm not good in science, so I'm more the creative person. And I think it really helps to reduce prejudices and bring things together, that art and science, art and mathematics, it's connected, and you can make those things very interesting, very exciting. And I mean, through the talks which I had with different people at FRIB, it's very inspiring. It's I mean, what I learned, and it really expands my horizon. So for me, it's amazing. Yeah.
So I would like to bring the audience into this topic. So the question is, what are the benefits of combining art and science? Are there any comments or questions? Yeah, go ahead.
So, Hendrik, you showed the animation, the scientific simulation of the neutron star collision. This kind of visualization obviously happens with the assistance of really large computers inside a laboratory. Similar sort of simulations, our tech gets more powerful every day, so consumer computers are capable of doing similar sort of visualizations, maybe without the data involved. This is an opportunity, as I see it, for artists to sort of interpret these processes similar to what Abel has presented with the possibilities of the volumetric LED system. How do you see representation of these processes from an artistic standpoint, interpretation, versus the sort of hard visualized data that you're producing in the lab?
Well, I think there are connections, and I mean, one aspect that came to my mind when what he was saying is that part of the excitement right now in this field is that the simulations have gotten so much better, and we can really simulate things in 3D, which, I don't know, if you're not an expert, maybe that sounds obvious, but until recently, the simulations had only one dimension. They were all spherically symmetric, and obviously emerging neutron star, you can't approximate it with a sphere. And so we can now do 3D, and they're very complex fluid motions in these simulations, And one challenge is how do you actually look at that? And a 1D sphere, that's easy. But and so we had experimented actually with 3D. We had a 3D monitor and 3D glasses to look in the complex fluid flows inside a star, but that wasn't very successful. And so I think combining this with art may be a way to really make it. I mean, what I mentioned with it's experienceable, that would actually help the science in this case. So a scientist could actually see what they're simulating.
Okay. Any other questions or comments on this topic? Yeah.
I have a comment, but I want to also ask what your reaction to the comment or comment to the comment would be. So, like the benefit of marrying science with the arts, the way I can see it is that art is a humility induced experience, whereas in common knowledge, science tends to be the intimidating one. And then so where I think combining the two can allow for, when people feel intimidation, that turns into a kinship. So people who do not visualize themselves that science and the science of FRIB can be for them, it becomes a way in, and maybe even inspire people to become a scientist or an artist scientist in it. So I wonder, well, that's my take on it, and so I'm curious, what's your take on this?
I think it's absolutely right. But the thing is, I think it makes it more accessible if art represent things how they can happen, and I think it creates an idea for people about this topic. But I'm not really sure if somebody is not really much into science or scientific field. I'm not sure if he's through art, if he would get into it. I think it's kind of questionable. But at least he's not refusing learning it, or he's not this what often happens. It's boring. It's not interesting. It's yeah. Maybe it helps in this way. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I think anything that makes science accessible and experienceable, and the more people have experienced science, the more you tear down those barriers. But I'm not sure I completely agree that art cannot be intimidating. So it depends how you do it, I think, and how inclusive you really are when you do it.
All right, there was one. Yeah.
Yeah, so I wanted to say, Abel, you talked about how science has to be, like science is quite quiet in regards to leading theories, but I think sometimes art can be quite quiet too, you know, like, because art is often opened up to the same level of scrutiny of, is this art, is it not art, what can be considered art now? And so the collaboration between the art and the science, like sometimes art can be so silly and sometimes science can be too silly, but you're taking two concepts right now to find the reality and the applicability and like a really vast understanding, which I think is great for art and science to show both like how creative it is, but how serious both endeavors can take. So I love that collaboration.
Yeah, it doesn't mean that art is always loud. I mean, I just wanted to maybe to point out the difference that there's maybe in the mainstream understanding the problem of science or of this what you are doing. It's like you can never say for sure about maybe at one point somewhere in like far future that things happen as they are. And this is, for me, it's very sympathetic. It's like, I really like it that there's not, as it is in other disciplines, where people say, like, I know how it is, and this is the truth. So, yeah, this is very inspiring, but I would like to have, I mean, it would be fantastic to give it also a platform as other disciplines do. So that's the main idea behind it.
We'll take one more. Pablo.
Hendrik, I love everything that you said. Your presentation was incredible. Abel, I like yours too. But really, the amount of insight in why we're doing what we're doing is just phenomenal. I want your slides. My comment is when you were talking about the moon and how silly it would have been, for example, not to bring the camera, just come back and say, folks, it looks amazing. I was able to look at the Earth from there and it looks incredible. And not bringing the camera is a huge loss for everybody. So in that sense, my reflection in here is that for the selfish part of just thinking how to make science more accessible, beyond all the benefits that you brought, I think making science experienceable is the way to go. And given that artists in general are experts on how to convey feelings, or that is my view, with various medium, it's like, okay, Abel is now the camera. I brought an expert that is able to convey all these things into an experienceable form. And among the other many things that you brought, that to me is the most amazing thing that is going to come out of here. I just wanted to put it, and I'm going to be telling people that if they are not, whenever you're making a presentation, whenever you're explaining something to somebody, if you're not trying to make them feel it, it's as going to the moon without a camera. So, thank you.
All right, we'll turn to our next topic, question. The question is, what is your creative process? Creative process. So perhaps Abel, you can start on this one.
Yeah, I already presented it a bit. It's, for me, it's usually I experience something and then I question it, and then I'm somehow get interested in this topic. And often it's connected to science or to something which is intangible, which can't be seen, unknown. So that's why I ended up here, maybe. So this is something which really interests me. And then the creative process is I need to be surrounded by the things a lot, and then with the why I start thinking about it, and then there's always the question about the balance between how much artistic input should be, where should be the scientific accuracy, and with the time it somehow shapes an idea and gets to a point where I think, okay, now I'm ready to create it, and then the creation process itself is also can change a lot of things. I mean, when I'm working with the materials, with the equipment, and this of course can change a lot of this creative process as well.
And Hendrik, please. It's Sam.
I would like to ask a question. If you're doing science, you can have a theory, you take data, you find it's either pretty much correct or entirely incorrect. If you're making a piece of art, can you ever say it's correct or incorrect? How do you judge it?
Yeah, that's. I mean, if about my own art or about art I see.
Any art.
Yeah, I mean it's. I think it's something which is connected to an inner compass which you learn as an artist about aesthetics, about if the concept somehow makes sense. But of course, I mean, art is highly discussable, so people might see it as art or as an artistic project, or some other people not. So it can't be that clearly clarified as it can be in science.
Yeah, let's go back to the creative process. So Hendrik, your creative process.
Well, I was saying in science, being creative is really hard work. And maybe that, I don't know if that's the difference or not, but it requires really a deep dive in some form, because you have to take into account everything that has been done so far in that area, and whatever you come up with has to be consistent with the data, with other theories, and the consequences of your idea also have to be consistent with everything that has been ever observed. And so if you have an idea, it usually happens when you're in a deep dive, and that happens usually for me when I'm with other people in front of a board at a place that sort of takes me out of the everyday, like a conference. Or, you know, just sit on your desk and you have a few hours of time and you think about things. But then, more often than not, your idea, you scribble it down, then it's hard work to do some calculations, to do some simulations, to search the literature for days, and then in 99% of the cases you find that doesn't work. So there are all these dead ends that are just part of the process. And then occasionally you find something that may actually work, and then maybe that becomes an experiment or something you then test, and you test it again and again, and then again usually it may get beaten down, and you may be the one writing the paper disproving the theory you proposed a year ago. It happens all the time.
All right. Are there any comments or questions on this?
Yeah, I'd like to go back to what Sam says. I think there's a difference in the science creation, creativity, and art. I mean, in science, you're limited by the laws of physics. You cannot get out of that box. But in art, for example, like in Cubism, and any of those pictures is a livable. I mean, can they really live? I mean, but with all the parts all dismembered and placed in different places. So, you know, if we want to create something, create a human, you cannot do it like what Cupid artist can. And I think there's so I think the artists are much more liberal, liberating. You can consider that.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely right. But I think as an artist, you somehow have to just justify for yourself each step you are doing as well. For example, I mean, why am I using this kind of equipment? Why am I using this sound? What is the sound contributing to the light? It doesn't need to be objective, like in a bigger picture that it should be correct, or that can be corrected by data or justified by data. But in the end, it's, I think in the art, it's very important that the artist has a very stringent, very clear path and connects the thing in a way what he's thinking, how things come together, and that he's in the end, if you ask me in the end about the artwork, then I should be able to explain everything in a very clear way, why I use this, and why I use this sound and not this sound, and why I use this light and not this light. And I think this is a kind of justification to my own profession as an artist.
I find that the more comments that fill up, the clearer this idea becomes in my head. That similar to this point about, you know, this sort of being the camera taking the moon. The artist in all capacities, but very directly in the capacity of art and science, is functioning as a storyteller. The person who takes the sort of events that have occurred and compiles that information and creates a narrative for public consumption, possibly with some prosaic or poetic additions to make it essentially beautiful. And that idea is really nice to sort of sit with, this sort of participation of the scientist and the artist working together to take the beautiful or elegant theory and make it beautiful, elegant in the experience.
Yeah. It's very deep. Thank you. All right. Let's turn to a more controversial topic that will be fun to explore. What is the future role of AI, artificial intelligence, in art and science? So let me start off with Hendrik.
Well, we had a little bit of a discussion before, and I must say, maybe I'm just old, but I mean, I was always interested in AI, and I dabbled a little bit in neural networks 20 years ago as a grad student, so it's not really new. And I think computers are a tool that we use in science all the time. I mean, if you walk through the FRIB building any given moment, 90% of people sit in front of a computer. And computation is a key element in what we're doing every day. And yes, the computers are getting better, and with AI, they will become even more better and even more powerful. And I think it will greatly accelerate progress in science and of course in many other areas. The more powerful the computers are. And I mean, there are a few aspects of AI specifically. I think they'll make a big difference in for example, finding, we talked about that a little bit, and I agree, finding shortcuts. I mean, that's what we do. I mean, there's no problem in nature that is solvable at a physics level. I mean, you drop a pencil, right? I mean, you cannot understand every atom and what it's doing. So we always, to do physics, we have to make problems tractable by simplifying them in a smart and controlled way. And I think with AI, that opens up completely new possibilities to do that with problems that have been untractable and make them tractable. So sort of the forefront of the science, I think we can really have an acceleration there. And the other area, Rahul is here, a grad student who's using AI to predict masses. And what he's doing is there are different theories and different models that predict different things. And in the past, we had our favorite, or we said, oh, we don't like that one and we prefer that one. But with AI, you can sort of combine the information that's contained in all these different theories and sort of combine it into a more powerful prediction. And then the last example, we built a spectrometer that has 31 magnets, and we somehow have to figure out how to set those magnets. So complex systems that have lots of parameters, we encounter them in experiments all the time, and we use AI now to actually tune those knobs and find suitable settings for the experiments. And they do the same thing with the accelerator. The accelerator has an incredible number of knobs, an incredible number of elements, and there's just no way anymore to do this efficiently the traditional way, step by step. And AI is able to look at all these parameters as a whole and understand how the system responds and come up with a solution. So it is everywhere.
Yeah. And Abel.
I get that you are much more expert in this field of how using it in an advanced way. I mean, when you hear about the possibilities, what can I say as an artist about artificial intelligence? I mean, I'm just happy about the solution, the possibilities it gives. I'm not worried about it, and I just see that it just reduces a lot of work in many fields, which helps me in many ways. I was talking with Hendrik about this artificial intelligence once, and he says, "So what? And what's the difference to before?" And I told, if I think about my parents, when I showed them ChatGPT, they asked like, "Dear ChatGPT, could you be so kind and tell me about, I don't know, how the weather will be tomorrow?" So that you see that there's another connection. They would never write this into a Google platform. So, but besides this, I think that's the future, and we can't stop it. But I think you're the main expert in this.
There may be tools that you can use in the future that you don't have access to now. For example, morphing different things. You want a smooth animation. This is very easy to do now with AI.
Yeah.
Things like this.
Also this, I mean, he did, is it a secret that some of the photos were also artificial intelligence?
No, it's not. It's the astronaut.
The astronaut?
It wasn't a real.
Yeah. But if you think also about those possibilities of doing renderings or videos, this gives a complete different opportunity instead of sitting there for hours and doing a rendering or a simulation, what I showed in the presentation. I think it would just be much more quicker and saves time.
But there is a bit of a worry that I have too, and maybe I just want to share it just to stir things up a little bit. Sometimes I'm a bit uneasy about using artificial intelligence to solve problems because at some point it's not possible anymore for a human to understand how that solution came about, right? And then you have stuff that works, but you have no idea why. And at some point that may bite you. And also there's a philosophical question, what does it mean to advance knowledge? If some program knows the theory and writes a paper, but no human can understand it, have we made progress? I don't know. So,
That's a good question to throw to the audience out there. Comments? Yeah, Pablo.
I asked ChatGPT, do we want to let it answer the
Yeah.
future of AI and the science? Let me see. Okay, no, she's shy. Let me read it. It said, AI is said to deeply influence both the arts and sciences. In the arts, it will enhance creativity and accessibility, enabling new forms of artistic expressions and personalizing art experiences, which is what we have had with like generated images and all of this. In the science, AI will accelerate research and problem solving across various fields, such as biotechnology and climate science, by analyzing data and simulating complex scenarios more efficiently than traditional methods, which is what Hendrik was talking about. So just wanted to give it a voice.
Yeah. Just have a comment about AI. I'm actually very enthusiastic about it if we are going to also use our critical thinking and research and make sure that not everything that we read is true. I mean, kind of. So my son, in one of his internship, he worked in a lab that they were developing a diagnostic for breast cancer. So instead of being invasive, if they suspected the tumor, to go in and take it out and have a lumpectomy and recover and stuff like that, they are trying to find ways to diagnose the cancer by images. And they are using the AI to decide if this is a tumor or benign or what kind of, and if it's a tumor, what kind of a tumor, because not every tumor is like life-threatening or something like that.
Yeah, very important. Yeah.
Okay, so do you, maybe this is Abel, or I guess both of you. So when you're using like ChatGPT or like generative like image, do you worry about like plagiarism, or is that not a worry? Or I mean, because it does plagiarize, right? So is that something that either of you worry about when you're if you use that, or you not use it?
To worry about what?
Like
Plagiarism.
Like if you're going to use, good question. If you're going to use like ChatGPT for like, I don't know, like a grant proposal or like, a letter of recommendation, or even more with like maybe you're trying to visualize a concept. Do you worry that like it's taken from somewhere else and you're, or am I asking a bad question?
No, this is important.
Okay.
So there are journals that require you that you state if you've used any AI for any generation of anything.
Okay.
So this is an important question.
well, I think it goes a bit into that direction that the AI does something and there's no way for you to tell how it actually got there. So I don't have any way of telling whether that was plagiarized or not, and I don't know if it's fundamentally possible to find out whether they actually used in a particular picture an idea or something that would be plagiarism. Because I think, I mean, in my mind there's sort of a gradient. I mean, at some level everything's plagiarism because, you know, from childhood we learn things and everything we do is basically has come from somewhere in someone. But it has to be processed enough to be your own, right? And that makes the difference. And you can probably argue a little bit how much processing is enough, but that there is something you can say about that. But with ChatGPT, for example, I have no way of telling. So, and I don't know, maybe fundamentally it's not possible to tell. So I don't know how to resolve that.
Right. Let's now turn to our last topic, and this is for the next generation. What advice do you have to others, perhaps the young folks in the audience, who aspire to become an artist or a scientist? So perhaps Hendrik.
Young folks, where are you? Everywhere, yes. If you want to be an aspiring scientist, to me the main thing is that you have to be actually interested in, you know, in doing the science and find. And that's also for me the main motivation. I just want to find out how things work, and I was always like that. I mean, as a child, the whole basement was full with TVs and washing machines, and I just want to take them apart and see how they work. And I'm still kind of doing the same thing in a way. So you gotta really, you have to be self-motivated. That's the thing, because as I described in my description of the creativity process, is very frustrating and is hard, and there is not a lot of positive reinforcement usually. And so you have to be really interested and self-motivated. But if you have that, I think then you can do it. I mean, if you have that one thing, then there's no reason why you couldn't be a scientist.
I mean, I can only react to what Hendrik said. I think it's the same for artists, to be highly self-motivated. Otherwise it gets very hard. I mean, there's a lot of frustration, same as in the science. You do something, you fail, it's not successful, you have the feeling it's not working. You work for example, I worked on the split flip, then I worked on it and thought, oh, it's a great thing which I can combine with the art, but it never came to this point that I used it in the end. So I could have been highly frustrated, but then it's more maybe the motivation about being in a process, to developing, to creating something new, to imagine things, and and to come to a point and to have this self-motivation, to get an idea about being happy about something you reached or you were creating. I think it's a very difficult process, but it takes.
That's right.
Now, before closing the program, I would like to mention the fact that the MSU, Michigan State University Federal Credit Union, has been supporting this effort. And we have in the audience Abel. I would like to call her to the stage. So Abel is the President and Chief Executive Officer of Michigan State University's Federal Credit Union since 2015. She has a Bachelor of Arts degree in Marketing from Michigan State University, Master's of Arts degree from Michigan State University in Advertising, and Master of Business Administration from Western Michigan University. Please join me in welcoming Abel.
Maybe the first
first thing I'd like to say is that my father and all of that side of the family is born in Germany, so.
How can you tell that you have both?
Yeah, so, well, I can, because you sound just like my grandmother and grandfather. So thank you for being here. Truly, the credit union is just really excited to be a part of the program. I'm working with the administration to create the Power of Arts and to bring artists to our community that the community would not have access to. So it's really exciting for us to combine art and science. Actually, as I was listening, I was thinking of business and art and science all working together. We tell everybody there's creativity in all of your work, because without that, it would be the same as everyone else's work. And so we are looking for people to have creative thinking as they explore solutions in our very complex world today. And I think the type of work that will be done through this artist and science series will highlight how we can all be better solution makers. So thank you for the work. I'm very excited for the exhibit as it comes up, and really just happy to be here. And if you happen to be a member of the credit union, I always like to share, we are able to make gifts like this to support efforts and activities on MSU's campus through members. Our members do business with us, and our board is from the Michigan State University faculty and staff. And through our budgeting process, they allocate $10 a member per year. We've grown to be able to donate $3.5 million a year into our universities and communities with that. So.
I would like to let you know that there will be a reception out there with food. I think it's good food, actually. And let's thank our panelists again.